Welcome back, everybody, to JurisQ podcast. I'm here with Alla Kurolapnik, a divorce attorney that focuses on the mediation aspect of divorce law. Alla, welcome back.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you because you always give us the simple answers. You break it down for us, how divorce law works. Of course, people always have a lot of questions. And a question that came up for this session is divorce versus separation. What are the legal differences and how mediation plays a part in a separation?
So divorce versus separation. Okay. A separation, when the parties reach a separation agreement, it essentially, it's the step before going through a divorce. And there's a variety of reasons why people may want to do that. One reason is because people aren't sure where they're going to be, and they know at this point they're having marital problems and marital issues, but they're not ready to fully uncouple their life, either because of their children, their finances, or something else. So one of the things that I utilize in my mediation practice in the first instance is to really question my clients, my mediation clients, about their goals in the process. Because we can structure an agreement to either the parties want to maintain, if they want to live together and continue living together and they're not ready to even think about separating yet, we could discuss a postnuptial agreement where we can
And by the way, in our prior sessions, we talked about post-nuptial agreements. People know about prenup, not so much about the post-nuptial. So if anybody has an interest in it, come back to our prior session.
Right. So you could utilize that. And then the next option is to discuss with the potential clients the aspect of separation. For instance, a lot of couples come into my mediation practice and say, look, I moved out. So now what? What's the next step? I don't know if we're ready to kind of take the plunge because we have children and, we're not sure how we're going to figure things out. My job as a mediator is to help them walk them through that process. And the difference between the two is really one has more finality in the immediate versus the other one that doesn't have finality until the future. And
so it's like a probation period. It's like a probation divorce, kind of, right?
Kind of. But the good thing about it is it allows the parties to structure their rights and obligations to each other at this point, rather than dealing with it a year down the line, where financial circumstances may change, where life circumstances may change. So it captures in the moment the picture of your lives and it puts it down on paper. And it functions like any legal agreement. It's enforceable in the court of law. It has obligations, it has default provisions, and it provides for custody, it provides for access for the kids if you have any children, it provides for financial responsibilities and division of assets, legal fees, all the things that we touch upon when we go through a divorce.
So it's important for every party to have their own attorney in this process to represent their interest, correct?
That is always my strongest recommendation, is because you don't know what you're giving up unless you know what you're entitled to in the first place, right? And you don't know your rights and obligations until you have speak to somebody who can guide you to that. The mediators won't do that. That's not our job. Our job is to create the space for the parties to come together in what they think is a fair settlement towards each other, right? But it's not my job as a mediator to provide them with legal advice. So my strong
can you talk about that?
Yes, of course. My strong recommendation for every couple that I that I do mediation for is to retain counsel for the purposes of consulting and review. Because the first step is you should consult with a lawyer about your rights and obligations in any divorce, whether or not, I get the first question I always get, if I move out of my house, will I lose my home? Right? That's the first That the first question
So,
that anybody asked me, and it's a long
yeah.
answer. There's a lot of, there's a lot of things that you need to understand about that, right? Do you lose your ownership rights? The answer is no. Is it going to be easy for you to move back in? Probably not, because the other
Mhm.
side can, file something for exclusive use and occupancy. They can try to not allow you to move in, and there's a legal standard for that, right? And
This
then
is a very, very interesting and broad topic. I love it because so many people stay in a relationship because they're afraid, or stay in the house because they're afraid to move out, and they live in this impossible situation where both sides already are warring with each other, but they have to sleep in the same house. So I want to
that's
have a
right,
whole session just on that. That's very, very interesting.
right.
Alla, can you please explain what is the role of mediators? How a mediator can help in a separation?
Well, it's basically the same thing as, it's essentially a settlement agreement that I would help the parties, I would help them reach the terms as a mediator, and I would draft the agreement for them to review, with their respective attorneys. But the concept is
Okay.
really, we address the same issues in a separation agreement. Um, as are addressed in a regular divorce. So you address, if you have
Mhm.
children, you would address custody, you would
Perfect.
address access to the children, you would address child support, payment of additional expenses for the children, maintenance, spousal support, equitable distribution, health
Mhm.
insurance. So one of the other reasons I was going to mention, Michael, people, opt to stay in a relation, opt to go for a separation agreement as opposed to a final divorce is for health insurance purposes, because a lot of
Mhm.
companies look, will keep a spouse or potential soon to be ex-spouse on a
Right.
employee's policy so long as there's no judgment of divorce. So this kind of gives it's an, in situations in a marriage where one spouse is completely reliant on the health insurance of the other spouse and there are medical issues involved, especially, it's a
Got it.
negotiation tool to think about, that if you don't want to jump the gun right away, right, maybe wait a year or two before filing the divorce, because all your rights and obligations are already worked out. You're going to live
Mhm.
by the terms of that agreement, but it gives the other spouse an ability to become more self-sufficient with respect to obtaining health insurance benefits for himself or for herself. So that's
Perfect.
another reason to consider something like that.
Got it. Okay, Alla, thank you so much. Thank you for your explanation. Thank you for educating the people, because this is what we do here at JurisQ. We produce educational videos for people who are considering divorce, and of course, on all other types of law, but specifically with Alla Kurolapnik, we're talking about divorces, matrimonial law, family law, child custody, and all that. We appreciate it for your time, and we're going to come back at our next session with another very important topic: the cost of separating, the cost of a divorce, because that's another precluding factor where people are taking a pause and staying together where they no longer belong together because they are afraid of the cost, financial cost of a divorce. So we can see in our next session how mediation plays a role in that process, in that thought process as well. Alla, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Until next time, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.